Good morning. This is for my buddy. Marcy MacArthur. Marcy had asked me a few questions and I thought I would just sit and video it and then upload it to YouTube. Seemed like the easiest way to do this. So good morning, 11:11 on the 22nd of April. Hi Clark, how you doing? If you've got time, this might be quite interesting. So this is for my friend Marcy MacArthur. She works for a charity doing some mental health stuff, and she'd asked me some questions, and I thought I would. You can't hear me? Can't hear you? Okay. Power off. Power on. It's just pairing now. Connect. Can you hear me now, Clark? Can you hear that? Has that come through? You got me? Clark? Can you hear me? Hello? Yes. That's a love from Maggie Sale. So, this is for Marcy McCarthy. Marcy's asked me some few questions. She works for a mental health organisation. So, how we look at COVID-19? Well, what we see depends very much on where we're coming from. What I mean by that is, if, for an example, you are a conspiracy theorist, and COVID-19 comes your way, then all you see is conspiracy theories. If you're a fundamentalist, fanatical Christian, if you're a fundamental radical Christian or Jehovah's Witness perhaps, and believe in the end times, that could be perceived in, for an example, the book of Revelations, and the world shuts down and there are fires, famines and plagues, then COVID-19 comes along, then all you see is Armageddon. Similarly, for me, I look at the world through a lens of addiction and the trauma that lives alongside that addiction. So when I look at COVID-19 and what's really happening in society, my internal lens looks at it from the perspective of addiction or trauma. And what does social isolation mean for me? Well, I've got a relatively good-sized garden. I live very close to nature and I get to walk and be surrounded by nature. And that's a very different proposition for someone that's living in like a high-rise set of flats in the East End of Glasgow, with high levels of poverty, with high levels of drug dependency, where drug addiction's high, and where intergenerational and systemic trauma is embedded in the psyche of those people. What COVID-19 has highlighted for me is the traumatic fault lines that are in our society. Just like that San Andreas fault line that runs up the west coast of America, it's a weakening geographically, that if there was to be a really bad earthquake, that would affect that part of the country geographically a lot worse. So what we're seeing with COVID-19, although the virus does not discriminate, I'm not saying that it doesn't discriminate at all, but what it seems to be doing is it seems to be attacking those with underlying health issues. So underlying health issues, or a weakened immune system. Now, what would be one of the biggest causes for a weakened immune system? Well, the biggest cause for that is stress and trauma. It's my personal opinion that we're all traumatised, and pre-COVID we had a myriad of distractions to make us, morning Jim, to take us away from the trauma. In lockdown, all the aforementioned are no longer available to us. We can use this pandemic as an opportunity to see what's inside us and what we've been covering up with distracting behaviours. And because we cannot escape, we are then met head on with our feelings. And this is an opportunity to deal with it in a creative fashion, or we can let it crush us. The other thing that we are gaining is the opportunity to see that we're all connected. The whole world is one world, and we can't separate nature from our society. What happens in one country happens all over the world. When has that never been the case? Well, it's always been the case. But we haven't paid attention to that because we've been looking at life through our own lens. When has it not been the case that I have had anger inside me, or frustration inside me, or fear inside me? Well, it's always been the case. But now, there's no way of getting away from it. So it's a great opportunity to recognise the truth about ourselves and the truth about what's going on in the world. Will we seize the opportunity, or will we just go back to how things are and have a great big party that it's all over and we can go back to our self-indulgent and separated activities we used to mask our trauma previously? It's a great opportunity to learn. So will some of us, or all of us, or a small percentage of us, will we, and gain what knowledge that we've had and put it into practice? People may have the awarenesses that they are compensating right now. They're maybe overeating, they're maybe drinking more, they're maybe distracting themselves online a lot more, they're maybe going on eBay a lot more, they're maybe buying a lot of stuff online. But having the self-awareness here is key. How can people that do not have awareness of this gain the insights to start to make a different choice and choose one that's less destructive? For me in the past, the minute I felt uncomfortable, I would go and grab a drink or roll a joint. And I was using destructive patterns of behaviour to manage my inner itch, or indeed itches. I feel so blessed today, in this moment, to have sobriety. And I feel blessed to have the awareness to know that these behaviours were hurting me. So I gave it up and I found healthier ways to manage my pain. So in order for people to make that jump that COVID is offering them, it's really holding up the mirror and having the self-awareness to look in that mirror. And it's also having the awareness that the way that you've been is not working. And this takes a massive amount of self-observation. It's difficult when the system, this capitalist system that we inhabit, is set up to distract us, the bright lights of Broadway, the fast food companies, the trendy yuppie bars, the flash clothes in cars. And even people are using the COVID-19 crisis as a way to distract themselves from the COVID-19 crisis. This pandemic has given us the opportunity to have a retreat. It's like a lot of us are getting paid to stay at home. We're getting paid to work from home. It's like having a retreat in a lot of ways. For a lot of us, it's a lot quieter. Things have went silent. But that retreat is allowing us to experience anxiety, the loneliness, the fear, the greed, the need. But how do we manage that? There's a multitude of things that have came to the surface. So we've got partners, our husbands, or our wives at home, our children are at home, and we're attempting to manage working from home. That's really difficult for a lot of us. That's a really difficult thing for us to do, because we have a wife or we have a husband and we have kids, but the kids get put off to school, the husband goes out to work, the wife goes out to work. So we get to have a sense of self. We get a sense of us time. Now we're all condensed into the one space. Now, an author who I love is a guy called Stephen Porges. And Stephen Porges, he's a neuroscientist and done massive amounts of research into this stuff. And what he says is that safety doesn't come from the lack of threat. It comes from connection. Safety does not come from a lack of a threat. It comes from connection. Safety doesn't come from a lack of a threat. It comes from connection. How connected do we feel? We have both a pandemic and a panic-demic going on right now. And I genuinely think that it will only be in retrospect that we'll be able to look back and ask the appropriate questions. Did we deal with this crisis effectively? We can't answer that right now. It'll be 5 years or a year, 2 years from now that we'll look back and be able to ask the questions, have we dealt with this pandemic effectively? No matter who you look at, where you look, what you see is going on, there is a very genuine threat right now. The death rates are still going up in large numbers. So how do we discern between what is a genuine threat or a threat that's coming from anxiety? Now, if you're in, there is a very real threat, there's a lot of death, there's a lot of stuff that's going on. So are you actually experiencing the threat of the pandemic, or is the anxiety that you're experiencing something that's been triggered from an earlier trauma and not necessarily something that's going on right now? I feel we have to look at what we're bringing to the table. What are we bringing to the table from our own trauma, from our own past experience? Please don't confuse this that I'm talking about a trauma of your business. There's many reasons to be anxious right now. There's no money going around. There's no money in the household. There's your business might be small. You might not have a lot of margins in your profit. You may be facing bankruptcy. You may be facing having to close the door. Now, these are all very real. These are all very real. But with the actual overarching pandemic that's going on right now and panic-demic that's going on right now, are you responding or reacting to the threat of the pandemic? Or is the anxiety that you're experiencing something that's been brought up and triggered from something earlier on? There are many reasons to be anxious right now, as I've said, but that may not have been carried over from our childhood because of our businesses, etc. We're all on a ship and we're trying to navigate the judgment from others that look at us because we've not got a mask on? Or is it us that's doing the judging of people that are walking about without a mask on? You know, we're standing in queues and we're thinking that person's not standing on the cross, or I'm not standing on the cross. Are we being a rebel, or are we being triggered by people that are being a rebel? You know, we've got all this stuff going on over and above what's happening. We're having these stressors that people, you know, I've noticed a couple of times that I've went out, and I've not been going out very much. I go out and walk the dog sort of twice, and I go to the shops once to get what I need to get. That's the way I've played it. So I'm going out maybe, I'm doing an hour and a half in the morning, and I'll nip and get my stuff. I won't be going to the shops today. I won't be going to get food. I'm all sorted for that. But I'll take my dog back out later on this afternoon. But somebody that doesn't have a dog, and I'm perceiving one of my neighbours that the curtain twitches when I'm going out the door. It's like they're almost waiting for my door to go, and that's bringing up feelings in me, right? That's bringing up feelings. But is that I'm being judged because I'm taking my dog out? Is that get something? Am I being triggered by that because I'm taking my dog out twice, or am I being triggered by that because sometime in my past there was someone that judged me for my behaviours, or indeed judged myself for the behaviours? So we've got that stuff to look at as well. We've got a massive amount of stuff to look at. The lack of physical contact right now, that's really affecting me. The lack of physical contact and how that's hurting us. right? Because we're all social creatures and we've all been programmed to attach. Humans over the last couple of 100,000 years or whatever, but more predominantly probably like in the last 10,000 years or thereabouts, when we were hunter-gatherers and we lived in small communities, we're wired to attach. We're wired to attach to one another. A human touch is vital. As children, that's part of the attachment theory. It's how that we learn and make sense of our world, is through physical touch, and that's been stopped. That's been taken away, and even just bump into people and knowing that other people are around. Now, this social distancing, say 2 meters, you're never bumping into anybody really in the supermarket, so you're not getting any form of physical touch or connection at all. So it's vital for us to attach. It's a really important thing for us, and that's been taken away as well, right? So it's how do we start to give thought to something a lot more greater that's going on in the impacts that this has, other than a pandemic, right? So it's vital for us to attach. So when we get to becoming it doesn't just stop. We don't just attach as children, babies. We attach as adults. And how does that take place? Well, it takes place in sharing feelings, talking to one another, communicating, copying, replicating, seeing somebody that we respect or admire, or a good friend, and we might buy a similar type car to them, or we might wear a similar clothes, or we might support the same football team, or these things all give us a feeling of belonging. We might go to the same church, we might football, church, music. We can attach through music, having similar tastes. When we see that somebody puts on a song on Facebook that's something we would have listened to, we kind of notice that we feel aligned to that person, or they must be like me somehow, and that gives us a feeling of attachment. So attachment's a hugely, somebody's texting me here, hold on. It's vital for us to attach, and how we do that as adults is completely different than how we do that when we were babies. So touch is a really important thing, and we're missing out in that. And what I'm thinking about a lot just now is the children. I've got a buddy that's just had a couple of twins, and I think about it really. I had a blether with him. I had a conversation with him about it, and it was through his birth of his twins that started me thinking along this route, that touch is such a valuable component in our development. And I sit and I think about the kids, the small children that aren't getting to be touched and held by their grandparents right now. Slightly off the wall, but I think that when a grandparent touches a child, it downloads files into them. It's like zzz, all this wisdom, all that ancestral wisdom gets passed down through the line from the grandparents holding these babies. And think of all the children right now that aren't getting to see their grandparents, and all that knowledge and all that wisdom that's stored in there. So yeah, we're in a pandemic. Yeah, we're not working. Yeah, money's starting to get tight. Okay, but we've also got a whole load of little babies that have just been born into the world that aren't getting to be held by their grandparents, right? So really, right now we might be struggling for money, but look at the implications that that's going to have on future generations, our children in 10 years from now, that never got that interaction with our grandparents because of the social distancing that's been put up. So for me, the social distancing is so damaging to our deep inner need. It's as vital as air. So we can use this pandemic to get in touch with our vulnerability and our need for connection. For me, in a strange kind of way, this lockdown, I kind of feel a lot more connected than I did when I was going about my day-to-day normal business. Because I've been starved of so much external stimuli and so much external connection. And I guess with the work I do, when I do meet somebody, it's so for that 1 hour that they come for a session to work with, it's a very strong attachment that's created. It's so that's my world. That's the lens that I'm looking at the world through. So when I do go out and I do go a walk or something like that, and I do see somebody at a social distancing, I actually feel a lot more connected to them, to that person, than I would have done in my normal busy running around kind of life. So in a strange kind of way, for me, and everybody's different, this lockdown is making me feel more connected. But are we asking the deeper questions? Are we starting to look inward and, you know, are we starting to ask the questions that really need to be answered about how things were before and what they're going to look like going forward? We don't know how long this is going to go on. It could go on for another 3 months. It could go on for another 3 weeks. Nobody knows. So it's a really difficult thing that we're dealing with as well. As a society, as a community, we've never been so alone. Yes, we're connected in the pandemic, but we're also very, very alone. The people that we've had as friends, or we thought that we had as friends, and that we've messaged and haven't heard anything back from. And it's been unusual to watch that it's been strangers that I hardly know that have messaged me. I mean, I've messaged people that I've known for 30, 40 years, never heard back from them. Bizarre. And you know, you can think, oh, I hope they're doing okay. I hope they're fine. When you look at them on social media, they seem to be doing fine because they're decorating and doing all kinds of things, but they've not even messaged back. They've certainly never reached out to ask me. And it's been the people that you wouldn't have classified as being in your close social circle that you thought were friends that are actually reaching out and asking how you're doing. And that's a really interesting thing. It makes you think, who actually was my friends? You know, are we going to come out of this having a big cull and think, you weren't bringing any value to my life? So these are the kind of things that I think a lot of people are asking, and that strangers seem to be asking if you're okay or not. And Marcy had asked me to do this, so this is for Marcy, and you probably need to edit it, Marcy, it's for your work. What I hope for is, I hope that we can walk away from this and have learned something. If we go and we look at history, have we ever learned? We've had the Holocaust, we've had terrible things happened, and horrible acts of inhumanity. If we haven't learned anything from slavery, if we haven't learned anything from being racist and the bigoted ways that we've acted, the way that we've challenged and Catholicism's wrong and Protestants are wrong, and just the separation that occurs. Now you can turn around and say, that's just a laugh and a joke at the football on a Saturday, but really, is it? You support a different team. You don't need to agree with what I'm saying, and I don't need to agree with what you're saying, but I now know that I have got a right to have my opinion, and I also know that you have a right to have your opinion, right? And none of us are actually wrong, because we're all looking at it through our own lens of reality. If we've not learned anything for the way that we've been before, if we've not learned anything from our behaviour, I want to have hope, but I'm also sad that history dictates that we haven't learned anything. I suspect and fear the lessons won't be learned. It won't be learned at all, and people will just want to go back to how things were. Will we go back to intravenously injecting? Will we go back to intravenously injecting the news about what football player got drunk and hooked another football player? Will we go back to intravenously injecting what hi David Russell, hiya. Will we go back to intravenously injecting the news and wondering what celebrities sleeping with what celebrity? And we've all, on a Thursday night, we all clap for the NHS. We're starting to hold our hearts open for the real celebrities, the truck drivers, the lorry drivers, the delivery drivers, the frontline workers, the NHS. Or are we just going to go back to, look what she's wearing, look what he's doing, look who that football player's just get paid £200,000 for doing that? And really, does any of that stuff matter? I hold my heart open to the teachers, the truck drivers, the nurses, and they for me right now have been the celebrities. I hope the clap for the NHS on a Thursday night continues to never stop inside us. I hope that we continue to clap and have the gratitude to fill our hearts And I really pray for that. I do. I hope for that to happen. And I hope that people can learn to emulate the love and hold on to the intention of love and connection that we all crave, but we've lost. But unless we're willing to put in the hard work to switch from our thinking and our planning brain away from our old brain and the scripts and schemas that we've been running that are harmful and erroneous, it's like anything, isn't it? No judgment here. You want to have half a dozen beers every night, a couple of beers and a couple of joints every night. You want to sit on the couch and eat Pringles and crisps and nachos and eat junk. That's okay. But if you feel that that behaviour is not supporting you, it's not supporting your health, it's not supporting your vitality, it's not supporting you, and you decide that you want to change that behaviour, it's no easy. It's no easy. That takes hard work. It sort of feels easier to go to the fridge and open a beer and have a beer. It's easy to go and grab a ready meal and stick it in the oven and it's ready in 20 minutes, right? That's easy. It's less easy to go and actually chop up the vegetables, make a pot of soup. I just this morning 2 bags of carrots, 2 bags of oranges, a pineapple, and some ginger. And that'll last me today and tomorrow. I'll just sit and drink that while I'm working away at the computer today. I've got a load of things to do. Look, that's what I've got to do today. I've got a massive list today. And here I'm distracting myself with this, but I'm doing this for Marcy. So, that wasn't hard work to do the. It wasn't hard work to do the juice, and it never has been. But it's really hard work to clean the juicer, so I don't do it, right? So, what I'm getting at here is, if you've felt all you've felt, the old pattern of behaviour, this side, and how we've been acting and disconnected and all that kind of thing, right? And then now you want to change, it means you've got to think. You've got to think about being kind. You've got to think about being grateful. You've got to think that you want to choose love over separation, that you want to choose connection over disconnection. It's your choice. If you go to the cupboard and you open a beer, that's okay. It's your choice. If you go in, and I do that, I don't drink alcohol, but 20-minute microwave meal, that's rubbish. I don't even own a microwave, but a 20-minute meal that I'll fire in the oven, I do that. And I know that I feel crap after it. I feel dry. I wake up during the night and drink gallons of water because it's full of sugar. I know when I eat and prepare, but it takes effort. It takes conscious thought. I have to flick up into this part of my brain, my thinking and my planning part of the brain, and I have to actually think and plan about what I'm going to eat instead of just throw that in the cupboard. So we've got that going on, and that takes hard work to switch our brain and do that and move through the old scripts and schemas and narratives from the past that are harmful and erroneous. Now, can we start to look at this pandemic from a position? And one of the guys that were on talking to me, Dr. Antonio Maral, he's just messaged me actually, popped in, but he started talking to me about this, about grief and loss. So it's interesting to look at this pandemic from a place of grief and loss. What have we lost? Well, we've lost our old life, and we're grieving for what we have lost on the outside world, or we're grieving for a loss of an aspect of ourselves in the inside world. It was a very courageous woman called Elizabeth Kubler-Ross that brought to the planet the 5 stages of grief. Whether we like it or not, we are grieving. We can either go through the grief cycle, or we can get stuck in the cycle. Now, we're all walking about acting like we're so together all the time. And maybe that's the position that you hold in society. You're maybe a manager or a director or a CEO of a company, and you can't go in there and wobble, because if you go in there and wobble, all your staff are going to wobble. So you have to be composed and together all the time. And what if you're feeling more threatened in that position? What if you're feeling more threatened that the part of you that's normally usually always together and not together right now, what if you're grieving for that part of yourself, right? The position that we hold in society might mean that we're a leader and now we're crumbling inside, so we're grieving for that part of ourselves that we thought was a leader, okay? So allowing ourselves to be okay with that feeling, and wouldn't it be amazing if we could make peace with our vulnerability? Wouldn't it be amazing if we could lead from the heart and learn to be okay with vulnerability? You know, there's grieving within grieving and there's loss, but it's all grief. You know, the 5 stages of grief: denial, bargaining, anger. It's all grief. So you can just melt the 5 stages of grief: denial, bargaining, anger. We just melt all that in and it's a grief. So many people are going through a grieving process right now, okay? And I'm looking at these little social enterprises and things like that are starting up to deliver this and do that and do good. But in actual fact, again, all that's happening is that they're dealing with the symptom and not the cause. People are jumping in and they're attempting, like, you know, Western medicine. You go along, you check this checklist, you've got that, and that wrong with you. We'll give you this pill. And take that tablet and that'll make you feel better. Okay, that deals with the symptom. But what was actually the cause? I'd quite like to know what the cause of it was. Can you not tell me what that is? Well, you tick these 5 boxes, so that means you've got that, so that means we give you that. No, I'm not taking that. So are we now going to get ourselves into a position where we can learn to take more responsibility? I'm going to go, I do that, I go off in tangents, but what I was thinking about this morning after I hung up from my live was a lot of people want to rant and rave about the middle class and the entitlement of the rich. Like, for an example, Richard Branson's asked for people to go on furlough and he's never paid tax to the country for 14 years. Victoria Beckham, she's worth 300 million or whatever, and she was wanting to put her clients in furlough, and everybody's looking at that. Everybody goes to attack that. But what about the entitlement of the poor? What about the entitlement of the poor people? What about the entitlement of those that are taking up and using resources? So it's a much more bigger picture that I think we need to look at, and still so many people that look on the surface as if they're attempting to do good in the world, which they are, by helping out our elderly, etc, etc, etc. But all we're doing is putting a sticking plaster on it. All we're doing is dealing with the symptoms, and nobody's really diving in to deal with the cause. And what is the cause? The cause is loss of connection. The cause at the underlying root of all ailments, all illnesses, all psychological fractures is a place where we've came disconnected. Now, that disconnection could be a disconnection from yourself, it could be a disconnection from your family, or even metaphysically, it could be a disconnection from God, it could be a disconnection from your higher power, okay? So the difficult thing that we've got is if any of the, I've been talking for about 25 minutes now, but the stuff at the beginning, if any of that stuff makes sense, and we're starting to take a journey back to completion, then if we do feel disconnected, and the disconnection is where the trauma is the disconnection, then the fear is the thing, the situation, the place or the thing that caused the break, which caused the disconnection in the first place, and we've been walking about for the majority of our lives disconnected, putting on a role, putting on a cap. You know, I am a bricklayer, I am a joiner, I am a therapist, I am a whatever, right? And all that's been taken away from us, and we're left smack bang in the face with ourselves, and not a lot of people are liking that. A lot of people are using destructive behaviours right now. A lot of people are overeating, drinking a lot, violence, aggression, all that stuff's coming up. And all that stuff comes up when we're not connected. If we were in our heart and we were in love and we were feeling jointed, would we act in an inhumane way to ourselves or indeed our fellow man? So whatever that break in the connection was when it happened in our development at some time, we run around disconnected because we have this subconscious belief that in order to feel whole again, to get back to a unified feel, to get back to some kind of unity, that what we've got to do is we've got to go through the pain of the original break, of the original trauma. Okay, and a lot of people are being faced with that right now. So I hope that's made some sense. I think Marcy's going to have to do quite a bit of editing for it. This is from Marcy's I did this wee vlog for Marcy MacArthur. She does some charity work for mental health, and I hope that's helpful for her. Thank you very much. Bye, everybody.